Making and cutting flowers, wine, won't you be mine? And I've posted a few pictures here in the front of the soap 2 weeks after them being cut into bars, my putting the flowers on the top of them. These are not beveled or cleaned up, so at the end of the video I'll show the finished product. My oil mixture and my lye are at 92 degrees Fahrenheit. I have some pre-mixed titanium dioxide in with some glycerin. And then here's my Merlot Sparkle mica. Its container. And then I'm using something new that I purchased. It's Eco Glitter. For this soap I'm using Love Spell Fragrance Oil, which I've used before and do like the scent. When I use this particular container to dissolve my lye, it kind of collects on the side and dries, so I strain it. I don't want any particles of raw lye that isn't dissolved. Dissolves, but then it dries around the perimeter. I have my silk fibers, cruelty-free, dissolved in my lye solution when it's super hot, and then my EDTA, which is a chelator. Something I started adding a few years ago to my soap. One of our sons, the house he bought for he and his family, they have well water instead of city water. So it is for people who are in areas that use hard water. Particular recipe makes about 7.5 cups of soap batter, and I will be adding some titanium dioxide mixed in with the glycerin in the smaller batch. My fragrance oil, since this is not going to be a very elaborate type design, I'm putting it in the main batch, and that way it'll be evenly distributed. So when I separate my what I'm doing here, separating about a cup or so just for the lighter color, the white or cream color, it will already have the fragrance oil in it. I will end up with about 1.5 cups of the white, and then the rest, which is about 6 cups, will be the Merlot. Once I have the lye solution poured in, and particularly after I have the fragrance poured in, I keep things stirred a bit. I'm going to put it on fast speed while I mix in the titanium dioxide, and I use a little frother to mix it up because it's pretty fluid. If it was thin or medium trace, I wouldn't be able to use a frother. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my Merlot in this. Now for slow mode, only because that's the mode I like watching the color blend in. I like to see it slowly mixing into the soap batter. I have a close-up so maybe you can see the little bit of sparkle in the soap. I don't think it's going to show up in the finished product though. You can also see the soap batter turn from what you're seeing here to opaque, which means that it's reaching emulsion. I could stop right here and probably should have. Particularly if I'm going to do a real intricate design, I would stop just at a very short pulse. When it starts turning opaque, then I can switch to a whisk and use the whisk instead. And again, it's just so that I have more time to work with my design if it is very thin trace. And this is regular speed, so I know when I watch videos and they speed it up, I don't know how long they're doing something, so I went ahead and put regular speed as well. Blending colors in at emulsion, you can get a better picture of what your color's going to look like. Since I do it prior to emulsion, I'm going to pour a little bit of soap batter into the Merlot that I have in my stainless steel cup, and blend it in there, and then turn around and pour it into the main batter and just stir it around a bit. Yes, I just have to. I've got it on just a little bit of a slow mode while I mix this into the main batter. At this point, I can decide whether I want to leave it at thin trace or bring it to medium trace. And I do want it a bit thicker, because if I pour the white into the Merlot when it's this thin, it's just going to muddy the water, and I want some swirls in it. So I'm just pulsing a little bit here and there, and then stirring around with the stick blender in between pulses to bring it up to the trace that I would prefer. As I lift the stick blender up and drizzle some down on the surface, I want to check for trace to see if I'm where I want to be, and I am, so I stop at this point. I want this batter relatively thin so I can have wispy swirls in it, but I don't want it so thin that when I pour the white in it and then get it in the mold, it just gets all muddied. I'm going to move my container over because I notice that it's a little bit out of camera range. I'm going to pour in slow motion. I have this video in slow mode from a height so that it deeply penetrates the batter below. I don't want it to rest just on the top. I want it to get down in the soap batter. And then after this, I give it a little bit of a swirl with my spatula before pouring it in the mold. Back to regular speed. This technique is called an in-the-pot swirl. And just another slow mode moment, or 2 or 3 or 4. Can't seem to find my little wooden skewer. After laying everything out, I just grab my trusty knife and make some swirls on the top. I'm just wanting to drag some of the lighter color into the darker. My little wooden skewer works better for what I'm about to do. I run the knife around the perimeter of the mold just to get a little bit of the excess. Just clean it up a little bit before I wrap it up and let it sleep for the night and go through sponification. I wanted a textured top and it not flat with just little swirls in it. I'd wait a while until it starts getting a thick trace, and then I could take a spoon and go from the outer length, bring it inward to the middle, and do that on both sides and have a nice textured top. And I might do that next time because I put flowers in the middle, and that would have brought it up on each side to the middle and have a peak, and then I could have put the flowers on the peak. But I didn't think about that. If you've watched any of these before, you know what I sprayed on the top, and it was just 90% alcohol, the rubbing alcohol I get at Walmart, and that's to prevent soda ash, which is only aesthetic. It's kind of like a grayish, well, like ash that has settled upon the soap top, and you can do away with that with a steamer, or you can just run it under warm water, and it'll come off. Sonification, which is a chemical reaction that turns the oil mixture and the lye solution into soap, gets very hot. I want that heat to stay in, that's why I wrap it in towels. I have to wait a day and a half to 2 days to see what my bars of soap look like. It has finally got here. I didn't show it being unmolded, but I just turn it upside down on a couple of paper towels that are folded up, or a thin towel. Gently press on the bottom, it releases and comes on down, and I'm lining it up just to get a little bit of the ends on both sides cut off. I want both ends cut off. I like the little end pieces. They cure a little faster, and I get to use them sooner than what I would use the bar of soap. During the curing process, all the soap does is lose a bit of weight. It evaporates whatever water content or liquid content you've used. So if you've used beer, or I've made some soap with pureed cucumber, made my own cucumber juice. So the liquid component evaporates out, and the bars get harder and longer lasting in the bathtub or the shower. If you were to use these, they wouldn't last very long, because you can actually take your fingers and squeeze the bar, and your fingers would meet in the middle, and you'd have a hole in your bar of soap. That's how pliable it is. I got my nice and wispy, gentle swirls. So the soap batter was at the right trace to do the design I wanted to in this. Flowers, wine, won't you be mine soap. A good Valentine soap to have. I'm very pleased with how this design turned out. You never know when you're pouring something what it's going to look like until the day of reveal, and you get to cut them into bars. Sadly, I broke two of my guitar strings. I have to find the replacement strings and put them on, but I have to cut it once and then move it over and cut the last two bars.
Then of what.
Next, I get to poke a little hole in the top of the soap, or a couple little holes, and decorate them with pomegranate flowers. This takes a bit of time, so I'm going to speed up the video. I purchased these from Brambleberry. Of course, my two favorite are the ones that had the design come out like a swirl of a heart. And here is the second bar. Talking about how malleable this is, so here I'm just showing you how it can very easily be squeezed and mushed. Switching back over to fast speed. Working on my 11th bar and just about done. Thanks for watching.